Okay, you ready? All right, go ahead.
Okay, so my topic is ecosystems versus species. Okay, so why this issue matter? We are targeting cute species. We are considering them more important because it's easier to raise money for them as people go in awe, but the cute species aren't needed to save ecosystems. We are ignoring species that contribute to our lives as humans, and going over their needs will end up hurting ourselves. Background information. So ecosystem is a biological community of interacting organisms in their physical environment. Species are a group of living organisms consisting of similar individuals capable of exchanging genes or interbreeding. And conservation is the prevention of wasteful use of a resource. Along with this background information, I'm going to tell you the top 10 most threatened ecosystems as of 2019 from the IUCN. So the first one is the Caribbean coral reefs. The second one is the Alaskan kelp forest. Then it's the Murray Barling Basin wetlands. Then Sydney coastal wetlands, South Karst Spring, Coorong Lagoon, and Murray River estuary. For number 7 is the mountain on Cape Town, and they have 8,500 vascular plant species that are gone into extinct. The Rhineland raised bogs, which have plants and animals that are considered endangered species. There are the Acacia Forest in the Senegal River Basin and the Ariel Sea, which has lost 28 native species. So my question is, should our conservation efforts focus on ecosystems rather than species? I said we should focus on conservation ecosystems as a whole, as they are the habitat that supports many species. So claim number 1. Focusing on species rather than ecosystems as a whole puts the counter species habitats in danger. So ecosystems are home to valuable biodiversity on Earth. So there are other species that live in ecosystems such as plants and animals, and there are many different kinds of them. Keystone animals to our ecosystems are being overlooked. So keystone is the central principle or part of a policy, system, etc., on which all else depends on. So they're basically needed animals. If they die, food chains will fail. A keystone species is an organism whose presence has a strong impact upon its community, usually by maintaining the health and diversity of said ecosystems. Habitat for the species needs to be supported in the services we as humans rely on. We as humans rely on ecosystems for purifying the air so we can breathe properly. We need it for climate regulation, cycle nutrients, which gives us access to clean drinking water without costly infrastructure, and pollination for crops so we can have food. Pandas and tigers oversea otters, yellow-faced bees, mangroves, drilling crabs, and the snake river salmon are endangered. So we're focusing on the pandas and the tigers because they're giving us money. So when they post little stuff on like websites where they're saying donate to the pandas, donate to the tigers, they're donating because of their looks and how they feel like their presence. Whereas the sea otters, the yellow-faced bee, and the mangrove, Devon crab, and the snake river salmon are endangered. So I'm going to give you some background information on that. Sea otters are predator and prey. They control communities of sea urchins. Yellow-faced bee are important pollinators of native Hawaiian plants and trees in every environment in which they occur. And mangroves are stabilize shorelines, prevent erosion, and protects the land and residents from waves and storms. So this is the sea otter, this is the yellow-faced bee, this is the mangrove crab, and this is the so make sure I'm telling you right. Yeah. Yeah, this is the salmon. So claim number 2. It shows a sense of selfishness. It's easier to raise money for big sexy species rather than a habitat. So like I said before, it's easier for them to post and get money for pandas as they're cute and they feel like they're what people want to see. When you go to a zoo, you're not going to see any of these animals at a zoo. You may see an otter, but that's more like a recreational place, but you're guaranteed to either see a tiger or a panda. A species approach is criticized for being too narrow. So, in a study by Dr. Thomas, he shows that people are basically saying that if we focus on just species, that's narrowing it down to being like favoritism, if that makes sense. So we're looking at the species that we consider important to ourselves, which is opinionated. So where you could find one species important, I could find the other important. And then focusing on preserving the entire ecosystem rather than cherry picking charismatic species. So that's basically saying the same thing, like we shouldn't just pick certain species that we feel are important and rather than saving species that will affect us as a whole ecosystem. Claim number 3. Now focusing on the animals in need will hurt a wide spread, including humans. So humans, tigers, and pandas are all victims of the same problem: habitat loss, overpopulation, war, corruption, climate change, pollution, and plain human greed. So basically, the Q species, we are one of the Q species that I can consider talking about. And we are all like causing our ecosystem to fail. Everything rises and falls on another thing, and if we hurt one part of the chain, then the whole chain can be ruined, which will intend to hurt us. If we don't save like the 4 species that I said, then whatever they eat, well, whatever eats them will then die. Whatever eats them will then die. And as it goes up and up and up on the food chain, it will then affect us. So if we have nothing to eat, then we're gonna die. The species needs to be supported in the services we as humans rely on. That's back to the first claim that I made. We rely on these animals, whether they're in the marine life, whether they're in the like prey land life, anything that has animals in their ecosystem that we need on our food chain, it will intend to kill us if we don't have it. In conclusion, ecosystems are in danger, and if we continue to choose the cute species to save rather than the species who contribute to the food chains and habitats, we will end up hurting ourselves. And then my solution. After reading this, I hope to bring awareness to a serious issue. Donate to the sea otters, yellow-faced bees, mangrove-dwelling crab, and the snake river salmon rather than the pandas. Yeah, these just sources.